Welcome to the OFX podcast. I'm Dave Claxton, and along with me, as always, is the matriarch of muscle mastery, Bethany McChesney.
That's a good
So
one.
I'm gonna go like right off the hop with uh the episode brought to you by Duo Namek, Door Frame Pull-Up Dealies, and designated drinks.ca. And like I am cheersing today because you have like celebratory news.
Yes, I don't have a beer, but I have my electrolytes.
That's probably more appropriate.
Yeah. Yeah, so big news. So my gym, Fit Farm in Strathroy, Ontario, is now officially a Deka affiliate.
It's awesome. Now, my first question is why couldn't you have done it a week ago and then I could have had a win?
It's a good question. Well, I was just waiting. Yeah, we did a bunch of simulations and stuff last week. To kind of, it was like I haven't talked too much about it being coming a DECA affiliate to my clients. So I kind of wanted to do all these simulations with them, and there was a lot of really positive things that came out of that. So I wanted to build a little bit of hype first and then tell them this is what we're doing because now they all, not all, but a whole lot of them now have that experience. So they'd be a little bit more excited about us becoming a part of the DECA affiliation. So,
You know what? So I mean, I went down there for it, and I did my run and whatnot, but it was a lot of fun, and you got a lot of great people there. Like, and some of them
mhm.
were really good.
We do. I know. Um, yeah, we have a really, really awesome community at our gym. We have a lot of really athletic women, and a lot of it too is people that kind of used to do. Actually, we have a lot of previous hockey players, and I don't know if it's like small town Ontario.
Yes.
Yeah. And yeah, they're just some really, really strong females. Like, and a couple of them I said, your next time or two, like, you're gonna beat me. Like they're so strong and they just kind of nail in on a few of the machines and stuff. But yes, I was so impressed with some of the women and what they did.
Yeah, it was awesome. It was a great time,
Mhm.
and I had a lot of fun, and it was a good practice for me, and a good confidence boost going into January. So I'm feeling good. I still got like 6 weeks to prep, and
Mhm.
I'm feeling right, and I'm getting a little bit of help from some really good trainers from Rich Ryan and from Tara Jackson, both giving me some tips, advice, and whatnot. So I'm coming
Mhm.
to place a solid second place.
Well, when Ryan Kent is there.
I think I have a plan though. I'm gonna get him really drunk or something. Either that or I'm gonna get Riley to judge him and just no rep everything.
Yeah.
No rep is row, no rep everything.
Yeah.
DQ
Yeah.
him for something or other. That's like the only chance in the world.
Mhm. Yeah.
But actually, I'm really excited to see him up here. I think he's going to be great, and I hope a lot of people come out afterwards to on the Sunday to do his seminar because I think you will learn a lot about not just DECA but like fitness in general because the guy
Yeah.
knows his stuff.
Mhm.
So that's exciting. That's awesome. Congratulations. Like really, that's really cool. I know you've been thinking about this for a while, and
Mhm.
I just like to say thank you to all of them because before I had to drive 4.5 hours to get to a DECA, and now I have four of them within 2 hours of me, and that works really well for me.
Mhm.
Just suits me
Yeah.
fine.
Mhm.
So fantastic. Other DECA thing I wanted to shout out too is our buddy Kevin Gregory at his last event ran an 11:11,
Wow.
which I believe is the second fastest time, just to Kent's at the World Championship. I think he did
Mhm.
11:08 or something like that. So unbelievable. Kevin is going to be a massive player again in 2023, so that's cool. Um, yeah, I wanted to start with that, and then I wanted to get and now so this will be coming out about a week after we do this, but so I did a nice not an interview. I had an episode with Ariel Fitzgerald, which was great. So make sure if you haven't checked that out yet, to check it out. And we got to react to a couple things that had just come out, but I want to get Bethany's reaction to a couple things because she hasn't really had a chance. Number one being the possibility of, and well, not even possibility, looking like there's going to be a Beast Championship as well as a 3K Championship.
Yeah, so it wasn't what I expected. I honestly thought it was just going to be focused on this 3K. My initial thoughts were because when you go on the registration, it shows you the times and the dates for the beast, but there's but now the Beast and the 3K are on the same day. So I'm just wondering if they're going to set this up so that people have to pick, which is quite unlike Spartan in that they kind of like it when people do all of the races, and it's very OCR athlete standard that people try to do everything. So I'm assuming they're going to set these up in a way that you can do both championships. But again, we're talking two very opposite ends of the spectrum. And depending on how this 3K goes, and if people end up specializing in it, and if we start bringing in athletes from more of like a ninja side, we could have people that just can't qualify for both, where you have to streamline your training. So it could be exciting in that way. So you're bringing in two very different types of athletes if we have the two different championships. Yeah, I hope Spartan isn't spreading themselves too thin with kind of trying to be everything to everybody all at once. That was my only concern, but again, it's another way to potentially bring in more people, and again, make them more money. So I don't know. We'll see how this goes.
Do you think this is a reaction to some of the comments and stuff from people like Lindsay and Ryan and things like that?
So try to keep them still in the sport.
Yeah.
It could be. I don't know that you're also then assuming that Spartan necessarily really listens all the time to its top athletes, because again, you're talking about like the 1%.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's their audience, because I think Spartan really does focus on the masses. And so that 3K though, we have to remember it's still an invite situation. So it's not really a masses thing. So it's like a 45 athlete invite situation. Yeah. So we're not bringing in hundreds and thousands of people to the 3K. So they still need a space for the rest of the people to race. So they probably still need to have that beast. I mean, they had a super this year as a championship, which was unique, but they do tend to lead towards the beast for championship races. So I think it's just, they probably were planning to do this anyways.
Yeah. I don't know if they were planning to or not, but I'm kind of happy they are, you know.
Mm-hmm.
If, like you say, hopefully, as long as they're not spreading themselves too thin, as long as they can pull it off. And yeah, the 3K is going to be an invite for 45 people. The Beast Championship, and judging by the qualification standards, could be hundreds for the Elite Wave now. That I'm not too sure I'm on board with yet. I'm still digesting that and rolling it around in my head. Is it just kind of happened? But yeah, I like that, and I'm still on board with the 3K. And for those who think there's going to be a lot of ninja people in the 3K, I think you're mistaken, because quite frankly, the only people who like to run less than CrossFitters are ninjas. At least for the most part. I mean, there are some occasions. I mean, you take people like Michelle Warnke and even Joe Moravsky. Apparently, he was a runner back in the day. So there are some that are runners, but a lot of them are not. And and they do ninja because they don't like to run, or they would have done OCR already. Point. So you may get some dabbled in. But when you think about it too, and it is a 3K, but it's also two 1Ks before that. So I mean, it's 5K and two. It'll take. I think it'll take on a breed of its own athlete, and it'll be different. And I think that athlete,
but they've said the prize money is going to be significant too. So I mean, if they're waving a lot of money in front of the 3K, some of the ninjas might just pick up a little bit of running.
That's right. Yeah, you're right. But it'll be different. It'll be, again, I think it'll evolve its own type of athlete, much like Deka, and kind of High Rocks even more so has, like developing their own, like their own. Yeah, it's just their own athlete, their own kind of cross section of what it's going to take to do well at that. Mm-hmm. So I think it'll be interesting. What do you think of the qualification standards, which is essentially, if you do enough Spartan races, you get to go in?
Again, I think this year is about getting numbers back. So I think it makes, I get why they're doing it, to just try to, again, bring their numbers back in. And we're now the third year in the UAE, and the numbers, I'm assuming, based on just the results, it looked like a lot less people came from North America. So maybe it's just trying to get the numbers back a little bit higher, the third year somewhere so far away.
I think honestly, had they done this one the first year, they would have got better numbers on the second one because
Mhm.
this one was much better logistically, from my understanding. As in, you weren't in these hovel tents, you didn't have dune buggies crashing into you all night. You
Yeah.
weren't 3 hours away from the city in like I
Mhm.
said in unair conditioned tents. If they had set up this one first, I think the following one would have done better because you would have had uh, less complaints.
Yeah.
So more people would have been more inclined to take part. That's just my
Yeah.
guess, but
Have they said it's the same location next year?
I don't think so. But I think they did say it'll be close to the city again.
Okay.
I don't know if it'll be exactly the same location, but they did say it'll be close to the city again. So that again, I think might turn a few people onto it. We'll see. But again,
And
three
did they
years,
say Abu Dhabi?
I believe they did.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they said Abu Dhabi. So it's
They're
going
not
to be.
moving it closer to Dubai or anything.
I don't think so, but maybe who knows, right? I don't know,
Mhm.
but it'll be what it is. But I do believe it'll be the last year there.
Yeah.
I think that they had a 3 year contract. I can't say that for certain, but I do think they had a 3 year contract. So that'll probably be it. And then it'll move on, especially if they want to keep coining the phrase world championships. But do they want to coin the phrase world championships? Or will they eventually be joining in with World Obstacle and making something else or with OCRWC? And who knows? I've always kind of thought the ultimate world championship for Spartan really should be the the trifecta championships
Mhm.
because that's what they promote, right? That's their thing. That's what they do,
Yeah.
you know?
Hmm.
So I always thought that
It
one,
seems they promote it as the ultimate test for a Spartan athlete.
yeah. And you know what? It was really entertaining this year. I liked it a lot. I
Hmm.
was a little disappointed we only get to watch the beast. I would like to see the super and the sprint too. But
Hmm.
it was great. It was good, and I think it's very exciting. And I love that format where they on the last day they you've got your time, you're sent off, and then however many seconds the next person's behind you is sent off, and boom, 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 you got that
Yeah.
gap like almost like a rally car start, I guess. I don't know, but I think
Hmm.
it's unique. It's an interesting concept, and I would love to see more emphasis put on that one. And I don't mind that
Hmm.
they have it in the same place all the time. That works for me.
Yeah, and I've heard really good things about that race and that location, and people who have done it said they would 100% go back too. It seems really unique in that you get the mix of you run through the city streets and then you can go out into the mountains.
Yeah, yeah, it seems very cool. I like it.
Mhm.
Um, Yeah. One of the other things, I guess, that we didn't get a chance to talk about, and on the episode you were not on, I apologized about our High Rock situation and confusing the way that worked. But I did say that I think it's worse now.
Yeah. Yeah, we didn't know.
No,
They hadn't said much about it not having a pro heat, so.
but I mean, I said it puts someone like you in a situation where it's like, why do I go now, right? Like,
Mhm.
and anyway, so I don't know. Now I did just see something else right before I came on here about High Rocks, and it was they were showing a video essentially of wall ball standards and
Yeah.
telling judges no rep us do that, and I like it. Like I'm glad they're trying it. I think it's awesome that they're pushing it. It there shows that we recognize there's an issue and we're going to do what we can to fix it. I love that High Rocks seems to be very forward thinking about that, and maybe it's not doesn't happen maybe as quick as we want all the time, but it's like, okay, we recognize a problem, we're going to analyze it, we're going to try to fix it, we're going to try to make it better. Um and that's great. I still say though, and I commented on it, that until they put a bump stop on the way down, the standards will just slip. It just
Yeah.
is natural. CrossFit has struggled with this the entire time, and you can still watch a CrossFit competition, and there are still no reps that are not getting called. Um,
Mhm.
and for those of you who think CrossFits have the ultimate judges, they are very good. But if
Mhm.
they were doing it perfect, then somebody like Andrew Hiller wouldn't exist, who has an entire media platform based on a shirt that says no rep. So,
Yeah.
just yeah, I don't think you can get that standard without making the movements easier to judge. Just like I said with the burpee broad jumps, putting the lines there so that the judges can have an easier time, you know, scoring where feet and hands are. It just seems to be the only way. But again, commending High Rocks for trying and working on it and trying to get better all the time. I love that they do that. They're a great company, and really, I'm looking forward to Chicago because I wasn't going to run pro anyway. So
Mhm. Yeah. And maybe them releasing that video now is them saying in 2023 we're going to be looking at these a lot closer and get your form right because we'll be calling more no reps.
yeah, and I think that the inherent nature of it is, and this is something that Deka struggles with too, is when you pick movements that have to be counted reps and judged reps, it all of a sudden makes it a lot harder. There's never issues with the farmer's carry. There's rarely issues with the lunges. The rower, skier, whatever. Like those ones where it's out and back, those are great, and you need like two people to man them. But then when you're talking wall balls or the lunges at Deka, you need a person for every competitor, and then every
Yeah.
competitor coming in, and you
Hmm.
need more and more and more volunteers, and they have to be more and more on the ball, and those volunteers get tired throughout the day, like they're 7-8 hours going at it. They get
Yeah.
sloppy, they make
Hmm.
mistakes, and i just I just think again with those bump stops that would take a little pressure off them. And I
Yeah.
know the tons of elites will just tell me, oh, it's silly, that's silly, it doesn't make sense, but it does make sense, and it'll work. And for those who say, well, it's elites, we should just be able to make the standard. Well, then make the standard, because a lot of you aren't. And it's
Yeah.
the proof is in the videos. We see it all the time.
Hmm.
All right. That said, we're a little short this way. We got a guest coming up, and this is a first time guest with us. And she is essentially, well, she's one of the Deka Strong competitors from World Championship,
Hmm.
and she's hearing impaired. So she's got a great story. And actually, it was Lauren Weeks' post that gave us the idea that we need to reach out to her and get her story, because she said she's such an interesting person. So here we go. Katie Bures. Okay, so we were we talked before, a little concerned of how this would work.
Yeah, I think it's good. Let me see. I mean, I can see you.
Okay, can you yeah, can you hear us?
Yeah, so
Okay,
far.
cool. I'm not sure how it worked, right? You said you said maybe you had some earbuds, and I didn't see any earbuds in.
Yeah, this hearing aid's been dead for a while, but it's okay. I can like read lips and see you. I'll tell you if I can't like understand.
Okay, very good. So we'll start out. We'll jump right in. And it's Katie Burris.
Yeah,
Yes. Okay. So
yeah.
we just introduced you, and I said you did the Deca Strong, but did you do the Deca Mile?
I did the mile and the strong.
So
Yes,
we were both right.
Yeah.
yes. I just came in last in the mile, but
Oh, that's
that's
all right.
okay.
Well, it's actually my wife was the one that pointed it out, because she was one of the judges there, and she says, "Yeah, I was judging the mile, and I was cheering for her, so I know she was in there."
Yeah, that's funny. What's your wife's name?
Riley,
Hmm, hmm, I don't know,
did you judge
but
for
that's
her?
cool.
She didn't judge you though, so she was just one of the judges cheering you on.
Oh, okay.
Um,
Okay.
one of the reasons we wanted to talk to you, actually, Lauren Weeks had put on a post that you had a great
Oh
story,
yeah.
and
Oh,
that,
she tagged me. Yeah.
yeah. So why don't we start, like, we'll go back and kind of where you came from in your background and how you ended up in the DECA space.
Um, okay, so Deka, so I got invited to, so I'm in Jacksonville right now, but I grew up in South Florida. And I've been living here for like 6 years, 7 years maybe.
Mhm.
And I got introduced to Deka through my friend Maddie, who you guys probably know as well. And she introduced me to Get It and then to Joe. But I got pulled onto a team for something. I think it was like a team challenge, like one of those like Becca like things that you do in the gym. And so we did that first, but then we also were gonna do like a team event in West Palm, and that was like a team, I think it was the mile, but it was something like double. So they needed another female. So Maddie and I have been friends through CrossFit, so she's like, "Oh, Katie should be good." So then that's how I met like all of them. And And up until then, I was a swimmer in high school and college. And then I started CrossFit maybe 4 or 5 years ago. Um, and I grew up in South Florida. And I am mostly deaf, so that's probably the main thing that separates me from everybody else. And so my judging just had to look a little bit differently. It's very tactile, and I grew up reading lips because when I was 8 or 9, we first discovered I had a hearing problem.
Hold on, you froze. So can you go back to where you just started talking about being hearing impaired when you were young?
Okay, is it unfrozen now?
Yes, yes, you're good now.
Okay, good. Okay, so then so his name is Dr. Sharkey. He's supposed to be the best doctor. Um, so 8 to 10 weeks, each week was a different test. And at the end of the 10 weeks, his conclusion was that I was just lying about it to get attention, as a kid. And my mom was like, Katie, he's not that kind of a kid, but he's supposed to be the best one. And they never, looking back, I can see maybe how the communication errors happen because I never remember receiving any instruction. And they never let mom or dad come back with me. They had to wait in the waiting room. And so, and I wasn't the confident kid at that time to be like, I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing or saying or pushing the button for. So the nurse was always like very angry with me. And she always was like, Katie, you have one more chance to do this. And I was like, okay. But anyway, so after that, I was very scarred. So I was like, it's okay, mom and dad. I'll do this somehow, and was not a big deal. And to me, that was normal. So I didn't know anything differently. So I just, in sports, um, I don't know. I really just got yelled at a lot. Like everyone just thought I wasn't paying attention, and a lot of times was running the opposite way with the ball for whatever we were doing. But uh, and I'm swimming, and I just got false starts a lot. But it's okay. And then in school, I just sat up front, and I didn't realize that I was reading lips until high school because I were like thinking to myself, man, I don't know what the teacher's saying unless he's looking at me. So at that point, I knew that I had to do that, but it was normal to me. So I was like, it is what it is. And then when I got to, well, really, I didn't get diagnosed until I was 26, because I was like, I got this. And then when I was 26, I wasn't going to be on my parents' insurance anymore. So then they were like, Katie, please go in Jacksonville. And so I agreed. And then that's when the doctor was like, wow. I was like very prepared for him to just tell me that I was lying about it again. But he wasn't. He was very impressed. He was like, I never met someone like you. And I don't know how you do it. But I was like, well, it's okay. Just look at me when you're talking to me and everything's fine. um, And that was before COVID, obviously, so we didn't have to deal with the whole mask scenarios.
Oh,
And yeah, so I guess it's been 4 years since I've had hearing aids now. And sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. But at this point, my hearing is going completely away. So we didn't know at that point if it was going to be progressive or stay the same or what was going on really because we didn't have a baseline until 4 years ago. So my most recent hearing test was about a month and a half ago, and it has decreased. So they test both volume and clarity, and then kind of give you like an overall percentage. So even with hearing aids now, my hearing's decreased to 16%. So that just means that I'm 84%, I'm just relying on lip reading and body language and really just missing out on a ton of stuff. But again, like I've never been able to function in like big groups and in the clinic because I'm a PT assistant right now. in those kind of situations, they know I at least can tell people now, like, hey, I'm mostly deaf, so can you pull your mask down? Was the first question. Uh, and then I just let them know, like, if I don't respond, it's not intentional, and just get my attention again and wait for me to look at you and then start talking. And if I still sometimes, because my cochleas are dying, so sometimes it's gotten to the point where I can still be looking at you and still be like, say it again, say it again, say it again. But it's okay. Most people have patience and grace, and I think it's a game of charades. And so I'm like, well, you just keep using your hands and we'll be fine. And then yeah, and so I'm starting my doctorate in January. And so we'll see how that goes, along with cochlear implants. So the next step to possibly fix this would be cochlear implants, because that bypasses the cochlea. There's really nothing. Hearing aids at this point don't do anything for me anyway, so the fact that this is broken, it doesn't even phase me. But with the implant, we'll do 1 year at a time, and they take away your hearing, so I wouldn't get the 16% back. So, it's like a 50-50 chance of it being successful, but at the same time, I definitely prayed about it. 2 years ago when we had this conversation, I wasn't really walking with Jesus, and I didn't even pray about it. I just said no to them when the doctor asked me. God was like, you're not going to take away my hearing. And I've lived 26 years of my life with it, and so I was very just quick to shut the idea down. And but it's gotten a lot more frustrating from my perspective. Um, just to not be able to understand even when I'm looking at people now, and it's something that you can't just like turn on and fix. So it's hard to explain. But I definitely felt Jesus tell me this time that if I say no again out of fear, then I'm missing out on everything he has on the other side. And so we're going with it. And tentatively in January is the first surgery. And then so I've heard you just have to relearn how to hear everything, and it's going to sound something like a robot. That's all they can tell me. So we'll see what that means. I don't know. But yeah, so that's what's up. And we'll keep doing CrossFit, we'll keep doing Deka, and DPT school. So I'll be the first deaf DPT in 2 years, Lord willing. So, yeah, that's kind of the big story summarized.
So the procedure they're doing, and I don't know anything about this stuff, so you have to forgive my ignorance.
Okay.
Is that with like the vibration, the in bone kind of thing?
Um, I think something like that, yes, but I should be able to understand. Well, I guess you're right, because I put like a piece on the cochlea on the inside, and then they'll 2 weeks, so you have to wait. You'll be deaf for 2 weeks, like completely deaf. And then they call it the activation point, and then they'll put the outside piece, I guess, out here on your temporal lobe, and then somewhere between, yeah, the convection of the bone, it will allow me to hear the sound, and then I'll just have to. They said it's not going to be clear for maybe a few months, 3 to 6 months, but they can't really tell. It's different for every person, so I don't know about that. But I'm gonna like work at it pretty hard to try to get it to like once if my brain it learns quickly just based on how I've had to grow up. So hopefully it won't be a long process, but like we'll see. I don't
I,
know.
I I worked with an electrician who had it,
Oh really?
and he worked out really well for him. So I mean that's hopefully a good sign.
Yeah,
Um, yeah.
hopefully.
So when did you? And I'm kind of thinking back through high school when you were dealing with all this.
Yeah.
When did you get into sport, and did that kind of help?
Um, and swimming that I started to like just stick to swimming. So I kind of just played all the sports, like as a kid, on all the teams. And then I stuck with swimming. I don't even know. I just love like the feeling after really. It gives you incredible lung endurance. And at the time, there was just something so attractive about it. I mean, I still love it. I still swim with masters. It's just such a different sport. And I think that definitely helped just give me something to not necessarily build my confidence, but kind of give me an outlet to just get out all of like the frustration that was inside. Even though I never fit into any groups, I didn't really know what was going on probably 80% of the time. I had nothing to tell my coach or anybody else because he said I was lying about it. So I wasn't gonna say like, oh, I have a problem, but I don't know what it is. So like, and I didn't know what I was missing. So honestly, a lot of the kids just thought I was mean. They thought I was ignoring them. They called me stupid. They thought I had a learning disability. I don't know. It wasn't the team or the people that made me stick with swimming. So, it was definitely just something about the sport and the feeling that you get just being in the water. It's a different kind of fatigue. It's a different kind of um burn than any of the land sports or even CrossFit. So, um, and yeah, now I swim with masters just once a week though, because the volume is pretty high. And so, but my coach is so good. Like now that we have something to like tell him, like if we're doing stuff off the blocks, like he'll stand like right by me, even like give me like a tap or something to like go. Um, they do have like the strobe lights,
Mhm.
so that would help. And but yeah, I think it definitely helped give me something to just like pour my energy into um in high school, despite all of the difficulties. But honestly, everyone kind of treated you bad no matter where I was at, so it wasn't necessarily just to me. But deaf people are just treated very kind of inferiorly, if you know what I mean, just because it comes off as, you may have a learning disability or just because you're quiet and more observant than other people. And because you can't keep up with conversation. So like if a group is bigger than like 3 or 4 people, I can't go from here to there and be looking everywhere all at one time. And so uh it's hard and it's very like mentally exhausting. So even just to be in school and trying to keep up with like reading the teacher's lips and what's on the PowerPoint. And a lot of times I had to just put the puzzle together. The teacher wasn't looking at me for all of that information, or if someone asked a question, obviously I didn't know what was being asked, so I would just have to put the puzzle pieces together constantly. Um, so yeah, it was good to like have some good physical exhaustion, not just like mental.
So then when you were officially diagnosed, then it must have been a huge relief for you to feel like you finally had answers to your frustrations.
Yes, 100%. I was so thinking that he was gonna tell me I was lying again. So I was like, I'm ready, I'm confident, it's okay. But when he told me that, I was like, wait, what? And he's like, this is really incredible. And I was like, oh, well, thank you. Like, it definitely helped build my confidence a lot. And so, and then you're right. Like, I had something to tell people. Like, I wasn't crazy. I wasn't in my head. It was like a real thing. And, hopefully this implant thing will help. But it's been a great 4 years. I've gotten to hear the ocean and the birds and the turn signal on your car. So there's been a lot of things that I didn't even know existed, even just the last 4 years. So, um, if it doesn't work, like it's okay. Like God has blessed me with amazing, amazing sounds the past couple of years, and I definitely know that I'm making the right decision just by doing what he tells me to do, step by step, one day at a time, and it's in his hands. So we'll see.
Never
So
have I thought how great the sound of my turn signal is. But I guess, tomorrow I will.
yeah. So what about sign language? You never got into doing that?
I know enough now. I didn't grow up doing it. I wish I did. And I said no. This means no in sign language, but my mom did try to get me to do it in high school and college for my second language, but I was so embarrassed about potentially even being deaf, and I was already feeling so bad for it. So I was like, no, mom, I don't need that. And so I took Spanish, and somehow, by God's grace alone, I got A's. I don't know how, because it didn't even go in one ear out the other. I don't know, especially the dictation like assignments. And but anyway, so I took Spanish, and I've been learning maybe the past like year, um, and really the past like last couple years slowly. I haven't been in school for it. I wish I could. It's just nobody pays for that, and you have to take on the whole extra degree. You can't just take class by class. And so, and I've been finishing my prereqs to start my doctorate in January. So it's like I've been in school this whole time anyways. But I've had deaf patients, and that has been very healing for me. Because I had never met anyone else who was deaf or who struggled with the same things. And so it was like instant disconnection of being able to pull my mask down for them, and they pull their mask down for me, and educating the other therapists in the clinic of why we need to do it and how important it is for us to be able to communicate and understand each other. Um, and so, and they taught me a lot about the deaf culture that I didn't even know existed. So I knew enough to be able to take patients through therapy, not enough to be an interpreter, but I also don't have good enough hearing, I don't think, to be an interpreter anyways. But I would think like maybe 70% sign language, but I should be doing more. It's one of those things I need to get on, you know?
Mhm.
It's your story, and I just took a quick thing to make sure I got the guy's name properly when I was looked down. Have you ever heard of Kyle Schultz?
Oh,
So
what?
Kyle Schultz. Kyle Schultz. It's his name.
Oh, I don't think so.
He's an American Ninja Warrior, and he's the deaf ninja. And sometimes he goes on and does like some sign language stuff online and whatnot. So he's a high level Ninja Warrior, and yeah, he's just really interesting guy to do. Somebody maybe you should take a look up on Instagram or whatnot.
Oh,
But
okay.
yeah,
I
he's
will look at him. That's
uh,
so cool.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you said that post where you got out, and that one was kind of really caught my attention when you posted that you got to hear the ocean, and I think that was when you were in Atlantic City, wasn't it? And
Yep.
first off, I want to say you were very brave because I didn't want to go anywhere away from the hotel where we were. I was a little frightened, but
Oh,
but but yeah, it really kind of touched me. I'm like, oh my God, that's awesome. And then to try to think of what you must be going through and the thought process to decide to have this surgery, it's just, I mean, that's so huge. I mean, you were very brave, and I'm very impressed.
mm, thank you. Yes, I don't know. I definitely it gets scary if I just think of, and I mean I've been given a lot of testimonies. Every time I meet someone who knows someone that's had this, or because the doctors don't really know what to tell you because they
Yeah.
haven't been through it. So uh, I've tried to collect as many testimonies as I can. And not I've had like one or two good ones that it's worked for them. Um, there's been a lot of things that have come up as far as complications that could happen. Um, and so, it's definitely scary. At first, I was definitely very scared, but every time that I get scared, I feel Jesus just wrapping me in his arms and like, Katie, you're doing what I told you to do, and it's gonna be okay. And ultimately, with my life, with every area, whether it's fitness or becoming a DPT or even just being a PTA right now, uh, I want to use every single area to point others to Jesus. And so it's just one more step of obedience. Probably the biggest leap of faith I've ever taken. But we'll see. And it'll be cool to become, a deaf athlete and just see how that works. Maybe CrossFit will make a deaf division. I'll definitely be able to come back to Deka because everybody did so good at helping me there. So, it's just gonna look differently, I should say.
So the one more thing I did notice about your story too, and the sports that you've gone to, and they're for the most part single sports. They're solo sports. You're on your own as opposed to a team, and that just kind of just makes sense with all of what you say. But and what goes into my head is that it must have been a big feeling of being alone a lot.
Yes. I love team. I think team is so much fun, but um it has another, it depends on what team I'm on. Like, because communicating, well, I call it communicating. It definitely has to look differently. So that is, you're right, why I've just done more individual things. And I think team stuff is so much fun, and just again, everyone is gonna have to communicate differently with me, and I don't know that I've done like a couple of team qualifiers for things. And then with Deka, I did go down and do that team thing with them, and everybody on my team did really good, just making sure I knew what I was doing. I'm okay, like as long as I know what I'm supposed to be doing, and if we have a plan going into something, then that's okay. But then can just become very difficult when the plan changes mid-workout to let me know that. And then a lot of times everybody's yelling and screaming, so that is not clear for my ears at all. It just makes it worse. And I tell people that, like, the more that you yell at me, it's not helping me hear you better. It's just making things more distorted, honestly. So just you don't even need to have volume come out of your mouth. Just save your energy, move your lips, and we'll be fine. So yes, I would say team is harder, and I personally get more, even at Deka, at Worlds, I get more nervous, I should say, about the communication aspects of workouts than I do about like what I'm actually going to physically be doing. And so it's a big relief when I have judges that are so patient and just willing to like get in front of me and go out of their way to just help me be comfortable doing what I'm doing. So then I can just focus on, all right, like what are we doing? And yeah. So I love team, but it is hard.
So we're going to talk about your experience at Worlds and your experience coming to DECA. So you were new to it. I mean, DECA is still a very new thing. And
Yes.
I mean, you jumped in, you had a great time, you qualified, so that means you were pretty damn good. Um, how does it help? Like, it's a pretty simplistic sport. Like,
Right.
it's not very complicated. So that does that make it easier for you to just dive right in?
It did. Yes. Yeah, it's the same thing. Like I already had it memorized as far as what we had to do and reps. And so at Deka, it was just a matter of like logistics, of like running in between the stations and just making sure I knew where I was going. But that does help. It's the same workout and you're just running in between everything. And so yeah, it wasn't too much to like, try to figure out. And I just made sure my judge knew that if I got a no rep, just make it very clear. And so yeah, it was pretty easy, and everybody was so helpful and kind and patient, and I can't wait to do more with you guys. It'll be fun.
Yeah. How did you feel nerve-wise going into it? Because there were some really great ladies in there, some really strong competitors.
I know. I was like, um, I didn't know I hadn't met any of them before, so I was kind of just going into it, winging it, I should say, and I definitely can say I did my best. So it was a good learning. I don't, uh, I guess, train in the same way that some of them do, just because I definitely prioritize CrossFit a lot more. So I hadn't necessarily been just doing DECA stuff for really at all, a little bit. And so I was just going into it like just do my best and see what happens. And I mean, it was fun. All the girls were super great, very good athletes, and it was interesting to hear, what they do and how they train and all of the whole Spartan world is like very new to me. So it was cool to see a new sport.
And so you say you prioritize CrossFit. So what are you doing in CrossFit? Like, are you competing actively in CrossFit right now, or
Yes. I so the next competition for that would be the Open, which I believe is in the end of February. And then from there, quarterfinals And then if you make it into semifinals, that would be next. And so we're gonna see about if they have a deaf division this year and see. I think it's under the adaptive division, but I am still getting in touch with the head person of that to see what that looks like and if that would look differently for me this year. So as far as that goes, other than that, just kind of all fitness. Like every day is a mix of endurance, gymnastics, strength. And then I go to swim practice once a week just because I love it. You don't have to do that. And so yeah, I would say it's definitely a mix of, whereas Deka's more aerobic, it's definitely a mix of like being able to move fast, lift heavy, and do gymnastics all in the same, 10 minutes. So it's enjoyable. It's constantly varied, so it just keeps it interesting,
So is your plan to do more decas? Are you
So
gonna
that,
are you gonna compete in more decas?
yeah, I would like to. I don't have any on the calendar right now, but definitely for sure next year, and maybe even like a high rocks. I wanted to try that this year too. Um, and so we'll see. I'm moving to Asheville in January for DPT school. So I'll live with my little sister up there. So I'll be still, doing, I should be able to still like do everything, and just travel. So depending on that schedule and my school schedule and all that, then uh I should be able to do more. Yeah.
Asheville. Sorry, where's Asheville?
Where's Asheville?
Yes.
North Carolina.
Okay. Well, there's a DECA coming in North Carolina,
Yes. Yes.
and
So
then yeah,
it should be good. Yes.
which I will be at that one. I will be there.
Oh, really?
Yep. Yep. And then what about High Rocks? Closest High Rocks to that area would probably be because they're usually New York,
Chicago? Oh, okay.
Chicago. No, they're usually New York. They do Texas, LA, Chicago. I think those are not too close, but
Right. But it's okay. We'll plan it in.
yeah,
Uh,
it's,
I've heard
it's
they're super fun. So
yes.
all the girls were like, "Yeah, you gotta do it, cutie." So on my list of things to do this year.
Awesome, awesome. Well, it's in a way, it's too bad you're moving. They're also doing a DECA in Orlando too, so that would have been a good spot too. But yeah, with the CrossFit and doing the open in the past, how far have you got in the open?
So last year, so I had a frozen shoulder last year. So I've
Oh,
both
wow.
shoulders repaired. So last year my shoulder had been unfrozen for maybe like 6 weeks before the open. So I was just going into it. And then 2 years ago, this one was done. So I haven't had like a solid training year with two arms. I've just been like a one-armed athlete. And so this past year, I did the open and then I made it to quarterfinals. And then I think I was like 700 in quarterfinals.
That's pretty good.
Couldn't do a single strict handstand push-up. I was just getting back to like ring muscle ups, bar muscle ups, all like the high skill stuff. I was just getting back to being able to do them. And so, then we just had to work on increasing the volume. So it went well considering I couldn't get my arm past here for like the past 8 months. So it was a process, but um yeah, so hopefully I mean I would love to make it to the game someday. I don't know when that'll happen. But, every day we're just training to be the best you can, and we'll see what happens this year.
Well, that's awesome. I think that's probably a great way to end it. Bethany, do you have anything else left for Katie?
No, it was nice to meet you. I did meet you in Atlantic City, and I remember we chatted after Heather and I finished our relay, and I had no idea you were deaf either. And people told me after, and I was completely shocked because you really don't know when you meet you. And and again, you read lips so well. So it was so nice to do this interview with you and to share your story a little bit more with people. It's very inspiring what you do, Katie. So thank you again for sharing and being open about all that.
Yeah, thanks for having me. That's a blessing for sure.
Awesome. Well, we'll definitely have to do it again, and we will totally be watching you in the Open this year.
Okay, don't have too high expectations, okay?